Well, food and wine in Australia is certainly competitive in the international market. And as we travel around Australia more and more these days, we really get to experience the incredible wines and the spectacular foods that our incredible country has to offer. Now, there is nowhere more known, I guess, for wine than the most beautiful Margaret River region in WA. And today we are very lucky to have with us estate sommelier Evan Gill. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a delight to have you today because, I mean, the Margaret River region has to be on everybody's list of place to come and visit, not just because it is so incredibly spectacular to be at, but it has some of the best wines in Australia. And you are, of course, with one of the founding vineyards for the Margaret River region, Vass Felix. And that's pretty excited, having been established since 1967. But I'm curious to understand a little bit more about the vineyard and why the Margaret River was chosen. What's so special about it?
Well, there's a lot of things I could say about Margaret River and what makes it so special. Being a young region, and it's probably important to start by saying that we are actually quite a young region by Australian standards, by global standards, is actually one of the real key strengths of this region. So as you mentioned, 1967, and I'm actually sitting and looking at the oldest vines in Margaret River. They're only about 200 metres to my left here in front of me. And 1967, planted by a cardiologist from Perth named Tom Cullity. Tom Cullity planted vines here in this part of Margaret River because of a government study, a Department of Agriculture study that was actually undertaken to really try to determine whether this natural landscape, this Cape region that we're sitting on, actually had potential for viticulture. Excuse me. So the reason for the plantings here were really based on science, but the reason why Tom Cullity, a doctor from Perth, made the trek all the way down here, which back in those days sometimes took him 5 hours in winter. The reason he came all the way down here based on that study was purely for quality of viticulture. So I think really when you speak about Margaret River and you speak about the wine, you have to really be thinking about the fact that it is just absolute, or I think second to none quality, particularly for Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay. It's a very special little region to grow pretty high quality fruit.
It's certainly not, you mentioned before being down on the Cape, and certainly it is a couple of hours drive now south of Perth, so relatively close to the city, but right on the Cape. And I read somewhere that it was really quite unique and very special that it has the crosswinds from both of the oceans, actually.
Correct. Yeah, we talk about, here at Vass Felix, we talk about being surrounded by water on 3 sides, and 2 of those coastlines are oceans. So to the south, we have the Southern Ocean. It's that cold body of water that continuously circles Antarctica. Now, it brings up some really crisp, cool winds, the southwesterlies that we get here basically every single day of the year. But then to our west, we have the Indian Ocean, which is warmer. And that is helping to moderate the overall climate here actually on land. Where I'm sitting, I'm actually sitting here in the cellar at Vass Felix. It's a very special place. It's really where everything emanated from. The original vines, the first vintages of fruit came here to be vinified, to be made into wine. But this cellar is only about 6 kilometres from the ocean. So the ocean influence is huge. And as you say, it's a complex region. We are actually classified as Mediterranean. Now, if you're thinking about going away on a holiday, generally if I hear that it's a Mediterranean climate that I'm destined to visit, then that's pretty good for me. But we have the maritime influence as well, and it's that maritime influence that has the moderating effect, brings quite a bit of winter rainfall, but then we have this incredible long, dry spring and summer period. And there's ocean currents also that are working into play. And then that third body of water that I mentioned is to the north, and it's actually Geograph Bay, and it's this beautiful, shallow, crystal clear, very calm bay, which also has a bit of a moderating influence. So it is a very, very complex system, or a mix of different systems that give us what is so special and unique about the region.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's so incredibly beautiful to visit. You just don't often get that feeling or have that opportunity to be in some spectacular vineyards, which are always just calming and beautiful to be amongst. But to be able to smell the sea air and literally to be able to go down to the beach in the same day, it's just really, really unique and absolutely beautiful. And certainly we're very lucky because we do get to come and visit Vas Felix on one particular itinerary, which I just have to mention because I really love it. It's actually a 15-day. I know it's all about the ones that I really love. It's the 15-day Kangaroo Island, Nullarbor and the Bight tour. Starts in Adelaide, finishes in Perth. Exceptional itinerary to really take in that bottom region of Australia. And along the way, we get to come and enjoy the spectacular wines and amazing food that you have there at Felix. But I'd love to understand what wines you might be serving up at a lunch like that.
Absolutely. Basically, the first vintage of wine in Margaret River was 1972. It came from this vineyard out here that was planted in 67. And the wine was a Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's actually that wine that we have made every single vintage at Vas Felix. We're still selling it. I've actually got a prop just here, if I could bring that into screen. So this is the current vintage of the wine that has been made every vintage that Margaret River has been making wine. So this is always an absolute cornerstone for pairing in our restaurant. It's a special wine structured, but it's also got a beautiful elegance to it and a lot of finesse to it as well. But it's a Cabernet Sauvignon that really works well with food. The other wine, or the other variety that is probably best known in Margaret River today, is Chardonnay. So this is the Vas Felix Chardonnay as well. And again, these are wines. This is a variety, generally speaking, but particularly this wine that works incredibly well with different dishes. We have a 5-course tasting menu. We have a la carte options. We have 2 chef's hats in our restaurant, and we always have a perfect pairing of a dish and one of our wines. Obviously, I'm going to talk very highly about the experience at Vas Felix, but it is, in my humble opinion, second to none in this region. We focus on wine here at Vas Felix. We understand that we're a winery first, but we have these incredible experiences beyond the cellar door, into the vineyard, into the winery itself. And we have an incredible restaurant. And that restaurant has an incredible chef, Brendan Pratt, who's just an absolute genius. But he understands that he's working with these wines. So it's really important that we find that harmony and that balance. I could talk about another 15 minutes about the food up there at the moment. You have to experience it for yourself, though. It's very, very special. It's one of the best restaurants. Not only, I should actually just keep going and say it's one of the best restaurants in Australia.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of viewers out there that wouldn't mind just traveling over and testing that out for you.
Yeah.
But it sounds just absolutely divine and incredibly decadent. And I think that that's what holidays should be all about. They should be all about really enjoying the local cuisine, the local wines in these cases, and indulging in that way. And it just sounds absolutely spectacular. I know that there's 4 different locations for Vas Felix in the Margaret River, where, of course, you do have the vineyards, and the one location where us visitors get to come and see and have all those incredible experiences, come to the restaurant, be able to come to the cellar door. It all just sounds absolutely incredible. Now, I think when we spoke last, it's harvest season right now. So everybody at the vineyard must be very, very busy. How is that going this season?
It's going good. We are probably, you'd say we're probably halfway through harvest. We've basically harvested our white varieties. We always start with our Chardonnay first, and that's come off. We also grow a little bit of Semillon, a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc. And it looks like, I think, as of the weekend, that is all now off, and it's all into the winery. So now it's up to the winemakers to be honest and true to the fruit, and let it shine. But we're still to pick our Shiraz. We're still to pick our Cabernet Sauvignon. We have a little bit of Malbec that we use in our Cabernet as well. So we'll probably still be harvesting in April, which is when we're generally finishing up the reds as well. So as I look out this window, I keep looking away from the camera, but it's because of this view I've got just outside of the vineyard and the local brook that runs through the vineyard as well. And it's a blue sky day. There's a light wind blowing. It's going to be about 30 degrees. So yeah, it's a really busy period. It's a really, really busy time here in Margaret River. But it's almost like a festival feeling vintage as well, because everybody's working really hard, long hours, but you only get one chance to do it. So everybody's up and about and full of energy. So we're a very consistent wine region. I think one of the most consistent on the planet, and that comes back to Mother Nature and the rainfall and the Mediterranean climate and these sea breezes. So yeah, fingers crossed we're looking at another great vintage in Margaret River.
That's awesome. So awesome. And one last question, because I'm just really curious to know. So the crops that you are picking now, and we talk about the Cab Sav actually that you're still yet to harvest, from harvesting through to bottling, because I want to know when I can come and take this season's Cab Sav. So when will that be ready to go?
So it starts fermenting as it sort of comes in. We use all wild yeast, so it takes a little bit longer for us to ferment our wines to dryness. The wild yeast actually grow out on the skins of the grapes as well. So a couple of weeks for the fermentation. With a wine like our Cabernet Sauvignon, it will actually be sitting on the skins for possibly a month. That's extracting all the goodness, all the flavour, the colour, the structural elements. Then our Cabernet will go into French oak barrels. And generally it will stay in there for a year and a half, so about 18 months, sometimes a little bit longer. We do a lot of what we call small batch winemaking. So we have all these little individual fermentations. They go into individual barrels. And it's actually after about a year and a half that the winemakers then actually blend everything back together. So they actually find their final blend. As you mentioned, the 4 vineyards. We have single vineyard wines. We also have wines that come from some of these different vineyards, which really helps to build complexity. So it may not go to bottle for 2 years, and then it may actually, and then it may actually be another year or 2 before we release it as well. We let everything just relax and come together and harmonise. The Cabernet is a wine that ages incredibly well, so if we let it relax for a couple of years and then release it, you get it at its very best. So I would suggest you would probably need to wait another 4 years before you can try this year's Cabernet Sauvignon, if that makes sense.
I can wait. I think there has to be 2 trips to the Margaret River in that time.
And we've got plenty of wines here at the moment. We've got the 17 Cabernet Sauvignon here. There's plenty of other wines to choose from, and look forward to tasting.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Evan, for the insight into Vasse Felix today, one of, or the, I should say, founding vineyard of the Margaret River region, a very special region in Western Australia, just south of Perth. We all need to get there and visit. I'm going to make some notes in the comments here for all of our viewers today so they can find their next trip to the Margaret River and hopefully come and visit with you there, Evan.
That would be an absolute pleasure. We're here, and we are very much hopeful and looking forward to seeing visitors. We're open 7 days a week at the estate. I mean, it's what we do. We love having people come and try our wines and yeah, go behind the scenes and see some of the vineyard and maybe even see some of the winery. So yeah, it'd be a pleasure to host any of your guests. Hopefully we see them soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and enjoy the start of your day.
Thank you very much.
See you, Evan. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.